What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. Nick Farabaugh here with you guys. And tomorrow, preseason game number two, they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had that joint practice yesterday, so I'm going to roll this episode into one. We're going to talk a little bit about yesterday's practice, and then we're going to kind of talk a little bit about tomorrow. No Baker Mayfield, no Mike Evans, no Levante David, no Tristan Wirfs, no Chris Godwin. A little bit less ante to this one than it was a week ago when the Jags had basically everyone playing out there on the football field. So this one, the Steelers not playing many of their starters, not going to be as much to glean from it among that first team unit. We will see, of course, some of the young guys like Harmon and Caleb Johnson and Jack Sawyer, and those guys star as well. So you can always get more information about those guys. But these guys in particular, I don't think we're going to learn that much about. Guys like even if they play like Deshaun Elliott, we don't know if he's necessarily going to play, but we do know guys like Jalen Warren aren't going to play. We know guys like Darius Slay aren't going to play, probably Joey Porter Jr. So a lot of players aren't going to be playing in this game, and that's going to change the calculus. But let's talk about this joint practice yesterday, and kind of what can tell you. I said it in the recap video. I do think that the Bucks got up more than the Steelers throughout these periods. I do think it was a back and forth affair. I think anything characterizing it as the Bucks destroyed them, the Steelers destroyed them. I wouldn't say that. The Bucks offense certainly had its moments. As Emeka Egbuka and really the Steelers' defense described it. Jalen McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, and Mike Evans all had a lot of success. Mike Evans especially. That battle with Ramsey was won, and Evans won that one pretty decisively, I would say. But I do think, something that they didn't talk about a lot, and I talked to Sawyer for a little bit. The Steelers got pretty good pressure on them. That's not a surprise. This D line's going to be great. But pressure was a big thing for the Steelers yesterday. And Deshaun Elliott had a few things that I thought kind of gleaned into um, kind of what was going on with the Steelers. I might get because they played a lot of zone. And I think part of it was Todd Bowles wanted to see his offense against a zone heavy group, but he also wanted to see kind of how his wide receivers would attack that. More importantly, I actually think Mike Tomlin wanted to experiment with different things they could do in zone coverage. And Deshaun Elliott said they showed a lot of different things and said, hey, maybe we can't go too far with the experimentation. Sometimes you do need to line up, play your fastball. So there can be an overcorrection to everything, too. You don't just want to be a team that does things just to do them. You need to have a purpose to them, and I think that's what the defense is kind of figuring itself out with, is what's going to work for us, what our changeups are going to be, how are we going to attack opposing offenses, and really where that comes about. So from the defensive side of things, I think that's where the big thing was. So it was, I thought, in speaking in generalities, I thought the pass defense got a little roughed up. I thought the run defense looked excellent. I thought the blitzes looked good. On offense, I thought that the Steelers had a real seesaw back and forth battle here. They went 6-1 per Pat Freiermuth on their seven shots drill here, and they did really decisively win that. It wasn't really like, oh, what did this one go this way? No, no, no. They won that very decisively. And so that one I think was positive. Then they also did not get a first down, four incomplete passes in a row per Pat Freiermuth as well on that 2 minute drill. So that's like starting strong, not finishing strong, and then kind of throughout there, I thought they had ebbs and flows. I thought it was a back and forth type battle. Like most team drills in this, both on both sides were pretty even. The one-on-ones, for example, were really competitive. In those one-on-one drills, like I can't even tell you kind of what happened, but I would say Juan Thornhill looked really good. I thought, JPJ was limited per Brandon Eccles, so Eccles played some slot. So Eccles was a guy that got a lot of opportunities against some really good players like Egbuka. And so that was fun to see. And I do think the Steelers have four very good corners that they can mix and match however they wish and however they want, which is a big boost compared to what they had last year. They were really working um, with not much last year in terms of scheme. They really had to try and kind of find what they could do. And a lot of that was just playing basic coverages. It was, hey, we can't do much, so let's not push the envelope. And they didn't. And so I do think that was something the Steelers really came into yesterday and said, "Hey, we're going to be experimenting with some things defensively." I think they made that very clear. And then offensively, still trying to kind of round it into form, saying, "Hey, what are we really good at? What could we still do better?" There's still a lot, I think, to work with offensively, though I think connections between Rodgers and Freiermuth and Metcalf are starting to pick up and work. The other takeaway I had was Scotty Miller. You just can't keep the guy off this team right now. I don't know how you do it. If you're keeping five receivers, it has to be Metcalf, Austin, Wilson, Skowronek, and Miller to me. He's been way better than Robert Woods. Woods has not been that great, to be quite honest with you. Um, he just hasn't shown a lot outside of blocking prowess and good hands. That has a spot somewhere, but I'm just not sure it's worth a roster spot right now with what the Steelers need out of that room. And Miller has been dynamic. So I think that's something, multiple players said that he was really good yesterday, and he's been good all camp. So, he was really good last week against the Jags. I think went under the radar. He had four receptions for 47 yards. He was pretty good. So I think he's somebody that should absolutely be circled. So let's talk now just a little bit about what the Steelers need out of this preseason game. One of the things I'm really interested to see is this run game because this was a commonality yesterday too, and it has been a commonality throughout all of training camp. Really, the run game has not been good. The run game has been, whether it's blocking, or whether it's completely something else, this run game has not been working. And so the question is, what does it need to work? What do you need to have this work? And if it is, hey, you need schematic adjustments. Well, it's time to figure that out. If it's cohesion on the offensive line, because I'm going to be real with you, I can't tell you what it is from the sideline watching it for 5 seconds. There's free runners, there's guys that are maybe not getting to the second level on some of these zone runs. Like, there's a lot of things to take into consideration here when we are talking about what is wrong with the Steelers' run game so far. And so I do think the Steelers are trying to figure it out themselves and we're kind of seeing the kind of ramifications of that play out. I also think what I want tomorrow is just to see that interior offensive line go up against a really good interior in Kalashi Kancey and Vita Vea. I think that is necessary to see. I think that's going to be a fun matchup to see. And I think the Steelers are really going to be a team that's going to be tested by their offensive line. We've talked about that all year, how I think that is the most important position group on this entire football team. I'm not wavering from that. So let's see how they go. Not as much of an edge rusher test as last week when you had Hines Allen and Walker. You get Braswell and Yaya Diaby, who are some interesting players, but we'll see how those tackles hold up too. Faltano and Broderick, they're always two guys to watch, I feel like. I do also think one thing I really want to see is these corners against this wide receiver room. Even with no Mike Evans, I still want to see James Pierre. I still want to see Brandon Echols. I still want to see Beanie Bishop. I want to see those guys. I also want to see some of this wide receiver room, man. I want to see some of these UDFAs. Like, where's Rock Taylor coming in? Where's Max Hurlman doing? What's Keyshawn Williams going to do? Because they're interesting players that have made a nice little decent push here at this roster. So there's a few things I want to see from them as well. But the real three things I want to see are run game continuity and more success in the run game. I want to see them be nastier up front. I want to see them be more cohesive up front. I think cohesion is a big thing, but I want to see efficiency. I want to see that E word come about because it's really important to be efficient. I thought they were obviously last week very efficient through the air. Can they be efficient on the ground this week? Just to see Caleb Johnson, have the game come a little slower to him instead of getting smacked in the backfield every time he gets a carry. I want to see Caleb Johnson's processing get a little better as well. I think clearly last week the game was just a little faster. That's sometimes that happens. It shell shocks you. And you're like, whoa, I didn't expect this to be this fast. And you just need reps and you need to see it more. And I think that's kind of what happened with Caleb last week. So that's the second thing I'm looking for. Is where's Caleb Johnson going to look? And then the third thing I'm really looking for is communication, both on the offensive line, because like Zach Frazier said yesterday, got tested with blitzes. That's a little bit new. Some of the blitz looks that they got, Steelers did blitz a lot in training camp, but the blitz looks they got against the Bucks, how's that look? And then the secondary communication, I'm just always looking forward to seeing that because of what happened at the end of last year. It's such a paramount thing, and it's the basics. So those are the three things I'm really looking for tomorrow. So folks, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell for more, and thanks for watching, everybody.